Hey, welcome back to the Fit to Survive channel. So today we're doing a fairly simple modification here. I hope it'll be simple. We're going to be replacing the blades here, just swapping them out between these two models. So this right here is a model that we want to be keeping. So this is the Victorinox, it's the Wine Master. And so this is 130 millimeter. So this is actually the largest frame that Victorinox makes. And so you'll notice something really interesting is the corkscrew here is like jumbo size. So if you compare it to the typical corkscrew, you can see here on the Wine Master, the corkscrew is much larger, much longer, and it also takes up much more space. You'll see that this actually, both the front and the back scale have the cutout. Whereas on this 130 millimeter knife, you only have the cutout on the one side. And also something kind of important here is you'll notice that the corkscrew does not go beyond its own layer. So you can see over here, where on this knife it has the bottle opener, the can opener, the corkscrew does not invade their space. Whereas on the Wine Master, you see the corkscrew actually reaches beyond its own layer on both sides. And that created a bit of a problem because originally this modification was supposed to be a bit more complex. We were going to add the saw. So this is the Mauser. This is also Swiss made, you can see here. Close this real quick. You see this is also Swiss Army right there, if it'll focus on it for us. So you see it's Victorinox, Switzerland, stainless, and down below it says, basically that means rust free. So anyways, we were going to take the the saw off of this. If you haven't seen this before, basically you pop this little protector off, and so you have a wood saw. Then in there you have a kind of little bottle opener. So a pretty cool little saw. We were supposed to be adding that to this build as well, but since this corkscrew is not friendly, we're not going to be adding any extra layers, just a simple blade swap. So the most complicated part is going to be taking these scales off carefully. This actually will be my very first 130 millimeter. I've never worked on them, never done any kind of repairs or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and we'll start taking the scale off, and we'll go from there. All right, so you can see right here, they did use just a tidbit of epoxy, which is kind of unusual for Victorinox, but I'm guessing it's because the wood. So you can see some of the wood here popped off where it was glued. So definitely very different system compared to most Swiss Army knives. Usually they have 3 to 4 pins is all, whereas here you can see you got 3 just in the back. We're gonna find out what that right there is here in a bit. It might be a pin as well. So this is the button that basically attaches here. It is the to remove the blade lock, basically. Yeah, there's a close-up. So we'll do the same thing on the back side. So I guess I should have gone through and showed you the whole tool set. It does have a blade that does not, it's not a one-handed blade. That's the main thing we'll be changing out. So it has the push button there to release that blade. And then it also has this small little serrated blade there. And there's a little tool. That's it for the Wine Master. This one over here has the one-handed blade that we want. So this is what we're going to be replacing into the Wine Master. Has the exact same lock. And has no secondary blade over here. They have the can opener, bottle opener. So very small tool set. On the back you have the corkscrew and the awl. So we'll take these scales off now, and then we'll start drilling these open. All right, so exact same setup here. Although it does appear that this is actually going to be a bit different as far as for the actual blades and stuff, as far as the actual frame, which does have me wondering how easy this modification is going to be after all. But I think it still should be fine. I sized up the knives, I measured them, both the width and so on. And so just a blade swap should be fine. But you can see this is actually a very different, this Wine Master is a very different frame, I guess I'll say altogether, even though it's the same length, exact same kind of concept. But because of that big corkscrew, the setup and stuff is going to be quite a bit different. All right, so what we'll do now is just take these apart and do the blade swap. And if all goes well, those should swap back and forth. I'll take this blade, put it back into this knife. I'll rebuild that. I'll probably do that off video. I won't show you guys that. I'll just be showing you the process of swapping out the blade and putting it in this one. All right, so here's one more close-up view before I start drilling this open. Kind of can see exactly how they have this set up here. So only the wooden one has this glue or epoxy, whatever they chose to use here. Once again, here you can see with this oversized corkscrew how it's a much different frame, and even springs here are going to be different than on this knife. You can see there, the springs don't have that exact same shape, which would be fine because we're not going to change out the springs, just swapping out the blades. Another interesting thing is it looks like they used a steel pin here up the front. All right, and then compare it to this one. Again, same size, but definitely a different frame. They also have a steel pin on this one as well. And once again, there's that interesting little cutout right there. It looks like it could be modified to take in like a small bolt or maybe some kind of driver in there. Interesting setup for sure. All right, so this is the one that we did using the drill. There's just 4 of them, so it wasn't too bad. Now here we did this with the Dremel. Also, quite a few of them there. Also turned out actually really well. So good, we'll start taking these apart, kind of seeing what they look like on the inside. So you guys get to experience this with me for the first time, just like I get it to experience it. I've never taken apart a 130mm before. So I imagine it's going to be the exact same or similar concept to most other Swiss Army knives. Move this to the side, start up here. All right, so that's the spring. Got some brass dust everywhere from using the Dremel. Not bad. So that's how that blade lock works right there. It's a liner lock. That pushes this way, and then this over here, basically this pushes back on it. So that button right there goes on top, and then it connects to this button right here. And so that then pushes this way. It kind of corrects the issue that I mentioned on the 130mm, where you have to reach over oddly and get it. Although actually, this would work just fine. If you think of it, you can still use your thumb to basically snag that and close it this way. But still, the button lock is still pretty cool. All right, so original blade here. All right, and as I assumed, this is just a pin. So we want to make sure not to lose that. That just fits right in here. I guess it kind of helps somehow along there. So definitely interesting. Put this like this, we don't mix anything up. All right, and then the corkscrew attaches there. And then this has its own pin. This is the reason why it has so many pins, is because these actually go on different pins and they close over each other. And then this little guy right here apparently has a spring of its own on the liner lock. You get a little close with that. It's already popped off, but right there it has this very own little spring. And so that is not connected to the large blade at all. Again, really interesting, really cool there. And the last, basically, I would call it just a liner, surprisingly is also made of steel. So usually they use aluminum if it's not a liner lock, kind of like you see here. But this is actually steel. So I'm sure it just has to do with giving maybe the frame a bit more support or something along that lines. All right, so do the same thing here. I'm just going to take this apart. All right, so here are the tools washed up, relayed out and everything. So the pins here definitely be causing some interesting issues. So kind of like on the Evo or the Evolution series, you can see this half, I don't know if you can tell you well on video, but this side has just been shaped this way. So it's not a grommet on there that can be removed. Whereas you have this one, it's the same steel rod, but you can see this one actually has a grommet. And this is where the interesting issue comes. So like I already said, all the pins that's used, they're all basically the 2.4, which is basically 2.5 millimeters for the pin. Sometimes it's not quite exactly accurate. So it's the exact same as on the 91 millimeter. But here I have a 91 millimeter pin. So again, you can see here, it's the same, basically it's 2.5. And if you look at the top here, the grommet is, that says 5.1. And then if we look at the steel rod that goes, this actually goes next to the blade, you can see this grommet is 5.2. All right, so just slightly larger. Okay, even 5.3 here, so it's just slightly larger than the one in the 91 millimeter. But then to make things even more difficult, you can see, so again, another grommet from ones we took apart. This is also the exact same pin. All right, 2.5, 2.4 pops up there. But the grommet itself is significantly smaller. On the 91 millimeter is 5.1, here it's 5.4. And then if you look at the back of the knife here, you can actually also see the cutouts here are also different. So let me turn this around like this. Let's see how to get this to work for you guys. All right, so that one shows 5.4. This one shows 4.6. All right, and so even though the pins are the exact same size, the grommets are going to be different sizes, which just, I guess, tosses a curveball into the whole modification. But fortunately, the Evolution series, this is basically my little, stockpile of Evolution parts. So fortunately, the pins that it uses are the exact same size as these smaller ones. So if I pull these out from the Evolution, you can see this is the same. All right, so show 2.4, but yeah, but this is basically 2.5, like I said. And the grommet is the size that we need. That's the 4.5. So that's going to fit on all of these smaller ones here. So that's going to fit right into there, and that should snap on once we get this going. We're of course going to use epoxy as well. So the cool thing is I can reuse basically these Evolution pins, which is what we're going to do. But then for this larger pin, I'm not sure, maybe we'll just have to use like a 91 style, 91 millimeter grommet. Anyways, we're going to figure something out, and then we'll get that all done and we start assembly. All right, and now what we need to do is just get these on here the way it's supposed to go. This is still crazy. This has five pins on it. It's absolutely insane. All right, so this one right here, actually, make sure we don't want to lose that. It's going to be this little pin right there. All right, and then our larger grommet right here. All right, perfect, just like that. Just kind of line, I'll pick it up so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so just like that, you can see we got these two liners reconnected there. Pins don't want to stay particularly. All right, so this small piece right here, I'm gonna fit that back on. That goes right there. Snap that down just like this. That is really a cool way they set that up. So it has its own little spring built into the liner. And this thing is not wanting to stay in place. Once we get some tension on it, it'll start holding better. All right, so let's get this spring right here. That goes right here. Do I got that right? I don't have it right, do I? Put this little pin in there. It's interesting. It's almost feel like it was like an afterthought that Victorinox had there. Say, hey, you know what? We don't need an extra pin right here. And it is refusing to go in there. There we go. Got that to pop into place. Hopefully the video was in focus for you guys. Just hopped out. These all pushed back in. And so that little pin right there actually provides all the tension needed for this. I'm going to feel that the pins are now holding in place a lot better. Even this right here is fitting in a lot better. Interesting what a large role that little pin plays. All right. So, I mean, the last thing is just this right here. There we go. Let's clean this up also real quick. All right, and the last challenge here is I'm getting all of this on and in place. This is seriously insane, just the amount of pins this thing has. I'll turn my pinky down the knife. Fortunately, it wasn't too sharp. Everything's looking great. Let's try the blade. That locks open. This unlock won't work without the button. Let me grab this button real quick. Slide that into here. There we go. That's how it's supposed to fit in there. So it apparently just slides down that little trail there. You see now it works good. Let's go ahead and let this close. What we're gonna do now is make sure that this new blade is not gonna be tapping anywhere. So you look down the edge of the blade, it looks good, locks good. And so just like I had hoped, this is not going to be any issues. Pretty straightforward swap. Disassembly was more complicated than expected. All right, so we're done with that. So let's go ahead and pin this shut. I'm going to epoxy these scales back on and we'll be done with this blade swap here. All right, so there it is, all pinned shut now. right, so that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry, and then we'll get to look and see how it turned out. All right, so that epoxy set. I also oiled the tools. Another thing I did while I was waiting for this to dry is I did get on Google. I found out what this is. So they're calling this a foil cutter. And so I guess there's foil around the corks. Anyways, so here's how this turned out. Really beautiful olive wood that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Definitely very beautiful. So our main goal here was to make this one-hand opening. And so that is a straight over conversion. No modifications were needed. All right, and then on the back, if you're curious what this is, while I was on Google, I looked that up. They call this like a two-step remover. So I guess you screw this into the cork, and you use this as leverage against the bottle, and you pop it out that way. So anyways, that's why they call this the Wine Master. So let me know what you think about this 130 millimeter, maybe about just the whole construction, I think. Hope you guys enjoyed kind of exploring this with me. This is my first 130 to ever take apart. And so definitely lots of interesting things to see there. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.